So as I'm sure most of you know, even if you're just remotely following the NBA, that the LA Clippers were eliminated in the Western Conference Finals, falling to the Phoenix Suns in 6 games, which actually the Clippers making it to the Western Conference Finals in and of itself was a pretty big feat for them, considering they have never gone to the conference finals in franchise history, the only team of which to have never done so before, and what seemed like a curse that just continued with Kawhi Leonard when he went down with his ACL sprain injury in the second round against the Utah Jazz. Somehow, Paul George and the Clippers were able to come out on top and stun the Jazz, winning the next 2 games and advancing despite the Clippers being without their best player. Now, obviously, most people didn't expect the Clippers to actually beat the Suns and advance to the finals unless, of course, Kawhi Leonard played, which he never did and was out for the whole series. And to be honest, not a lot of information was revealed about his injury and when they could expect a return from him. When it was first announced that he had injured his ACL, there was actually fear that he had torn his ACL, which of course is at least a 12-month recovery timeline. But then it was revealed it was just an ACL sprain, but that he would remain out indefinitely with no specific timeline. And every game that passed in that series, we were waiting to see if in fact he would return, all but to find out he would be out yet again on the day of each game. So it begs the question, what does the future of Kawhi Leonard's career hold, and what does that look like now that this season, for him anyway, is officially over, and he will have to decide whether or not to decline his player option and become an unrestricted free agent, or exercise the final year of his deal to remain with the Clippers. And because I know a lot of Bulls fans have been hoping for this all season, how realistic is it for Kawhi Leonard to join the Chicago Bulls? And that's what I want to talk about in this video. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Now, we will be finding out very soon Kawhi's decision on his contract. In fact, by the time you're watching this, it's very possible he has already either declined or exercised his player option. Now, I think more likely than not, Kawhi is going to decline his player option and become an unrestricted free agent, which doesn't mean that he's going to be leaving the Clippers. It just means he'll look to restructure his deal for a more long-term lucrative contract. You know, it was already anticipated that he would be declining his option based on comments he actually made right before the start of the season, in which he stated it would be smarter for him to decline his option. However, after this most recent injury, I would say that changes, things for him just marginally as far as him exercising his option. Probably went up just a little bit, but if I had to give it a percentage, I would say it went from about 5% exercising his option before his ACL injury to now maybe around 10 to 15% exercising his option. Still more likely than not, he's going to be opting out. Now, I have been saying this all season long because we know Kawhi Leonard is the biggest name, the best player on the free agency market this offseason, if he declines his option, that is. So naturally, as wishful thinking Bulls fans, there always will be talk of, well, what if we got Kawhi? Could we get Kawhi? And I'm still here to tell you guys that no, Kawhi isn't going to be coming to Chicago. I know that sounds harsh, but if you guys know me and you've been watching the channel for a while now, you know I try to keep it real and be realistic in my expectations of what the Bulls can and cannot do. And I'll explain why Kawhi Leonard coming to Chicago isn't realistic at all, but it's not impossible either. It's not a for sure 0% chance that Kawhi would come to Chicago, but maybe more in the 0.5 to 1% chance range. Still incredibly low. And here's why. First of all, Kawhi Leonard loves LA. He's from LA, he's been wanting to play in LA ever since he started to flourish in the NBA. And even after his championship run in Toronto, when he was traded there by the Spurs, it was believed that after winning the title that Kawhi would consider staying and re-signing with the Raptors after his one-year rental season in Toronto. But no, despite his team winning the championship and having the ability to go back-to-back, he opted out to leave and to go play in LA, which wasn't a bad move because he went to go team up with Paul George and the Clippers would now be a title contending team. But it was clear that no matter how good of a basketball situation Kawhi had in Toronto, he had his heart set on playing in LA. The other reason why it's not realistic is the Bulls aren't a good team, at least not with the way they finished this past season. Now, I think Bulls, they're a much better team than their record showed, and it will be much better going into next season with the addition of Vucevic not happening in the middle of the season, but actually having him for a full year with a full offseason. But the Bulls still aren't a title contending team. They're just not. And the Clippers making it to the conference finals and likely would have gone on to the finals and maybe even have won the title had Kawhi not got injured. They are a contending team. And if Kawhi is looking to win more championships, which I believe that he clearly is, and he gets to do it in LA, which he always wanted to do to begin with, what would make him want to leave that situation to come play with a team that is a bit of a uncertain question mark at this point? Like, it would be a little bit different if the Bulls post-trade deadline started making some big headway in terms of their performance and started looking like an up-and-coming team, making the playoffs and even putting up a good fight in the first round. That would at least make Chicago an intriguing destination for Kawhi Leonard. But the Bulls missed the play-in game, which again, there were a number of factors for why that happened, which I've talked about in previous videos. But from Kawhi's perspective, I'm going to leave to go play for a lottery team who didn't even get to keep their lottery pick, by the way, and leave a title contending team that just lost in the conference finals without me. It just wouldn't make sense for him. The other thing is the money. As of right now, despite all of the Bulls' expiring contracts, they don't have enough cap space to bring in the kind of money or the kind of player that Kawhi Leonard is going to command in free agency. Now, this could be, vary depending on the Bulls exercising their partial guarantees to Satoransky or Thaddeus Young and not re-signing Markkanen, but the Bulls are going to have somewhere in the range of $23 to $25 million in cap space. Now, they can go over the salary cap and into the luxury tax, but you're only able to go over the cap through trade exceptions or mid-level exceptions, which if you're bringing in Kawhi Leonard and signing him as a free agent, that would not apply as an exception of going over the cap. So in order for the Bulls to actually make more cap room to be able to afford Kawhi, you would have to likely trade players who are currently under contract, guys like Coby White, Thaddeus Young, Satoransky, Troy Brown Jr., even Al-Farouq Aminu. Good luck trading that contract. I'm not saying that you would need to trade all these guys, but you would have to start thinking about moving their salaries to get them off the books. And then, of course, by doing so, you're left with little to no money to bring in role players coming off the bench. Now, the one thing, if you're the Bulls, that you would have to consider and may potentially be cautious of is how serious is this knee injury to Kawhi. Now, it doesn't seem that serious at the moment, but they have been kind of keeping things a bit under wraps in terms of what exactly his status is and when he will be able to actually return back to the court. Not that it matters now since he doesn't have any upcoming games, but it would be good to know how quickly he's going to be able to recover. And the reason I bring this up is because Kawhi has had issues with his knees before, as we saw back when he was with the Spurs, and given he's now 30 years old and recovering from another knee injury might be a bit more challenging than it was 5 years ago back when he was 25. Is that a factor that would weigh into your decision in essentially gutting your entire roster and giving Kawhi a max contract? Now, I still would make that move for Kawhi all day, every day, if he somehow made it known that he wanted to play for the Bulls, but it is still a little bit concerning. Now, I am curious how the Clippers are going to approach this, because if he declines his player option and seeks a super max contract with the Clippers despite coming off another injury, do they risk giving it to him knowing that the contract could come back to bite them? I think they absolutely still would. You would almost have to if you're the Clippers, as it's your last chance to make another run at the title. The team is already pretty well constructed, although I think it actually had a better roster last season, but we all saw them choke in the bubble anyway. So for the Clippers, their front office, there is no way that you can't offer Kawhi a max contract. He's still your best player and the face of your franchise, and you would literally set your franchise back years by letting him walk, all because you didn't want to shell out a max contract. Anyway, in short, I hate to say it, Bulls fans, but Kawhi just isn't coming to Chicago. It wouldn't make any sense for him basketball-wise, money-wise, and just for his career and his legacy, unless, of course, Arturas somehow pulls off salary cap wizardry and is able to add other strong pieces to the roster and Kawhi Leonard to where it would actually end up being a better basketball situation for Kawhi in Chicago rather than staying in LA. But again, there is just no way that it's happening. I've said it before, Kawhi more likely than not is going to remain with the Clippers even if he declines his option. Otherwise, he's likely going to be looking to go to a contending team that has the cap space to offer him a max contract. Let me know what you guys think though. How realistic do you think it is for Kawhi to join the Bulls? Let me know in the comments, and as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do upload daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.